So it's Sunday, it's a full moon ahead of a quite exciting week, and we've got quite a lot of bullish news for crypto this week. So first off, full moons, I don't tend to see them as turning points. I tend to see them as kind of intensification of the trend that's already happening. And so that's pretty bullish for Bitcoin. Anyway, the Biden dropping out, though, initially caused a little bit of a pullback in Bitcoin. I think it was people getting ready, really, for the news. But this is bullish because Trump is seen as the pro-crypto guy. And later this week, I think it's Thursday, Trump is addressing a Bitcoin crypto conference. So that is pretty bullish for Bitcoin. Also this week on Tuesday, we've got the Ethereum spot ETFs to start trading as well. So in terms of fundamentals, there are some quite interesting bullish news this week for crypto. The problem is that we've already had pretty nice bounce moves, and we need to be careful that markets which are going up keep going up on good news, because usually when a market stops going up on good news, that's usually when all the buyers are exhausted and people want to see a bigger pullback before they get in. So let's talk about where we are in Bitcoin in this really bullish move. So we had our typical this weekend consolidation. We had what I thought was a pretty interesting triple top. Here in Bitcoin, we were going sideways from these highs. This was the high that we made Friday afternoon. Here was our sideways range, and so we had a third touch false breakout, spike lower, and then we had this Biden news. So the first move was lower, now we're going higher and we're breaking out. So where are we in terms of what's the next price and where are we likely to see a pullback? We need to be a little bit careful because potentially we are in a little bit of a fifth wave here if we count the waves. Tends to Bitcoin, if it's got a squeeze going on, it won't come all the way back to the wave 4. But to be honest, if we do, back to this swing low that we made on Thursday, Friday is likely to be where we come back to if we see a bigger pullback. But what do the fibs tell us? Well, when you've got an ABC equal measured move like we've got here, you put your fib retrace levels over both swings and you look and see if the market is looking at them, if it validates them. And for me, that 236 here, fib here, is the touchstone. If we get a reaction here, you can kind of lean on the other levels, and we did. So if we do this and we go down to a 4 hour, you can see we actually got a really nice reaction at this 236 fib, a very deep pullback, and then we kept going through all of these other levels. We reversed at the 61.8, the 50% was support. We can see it even more clearly on the daily. We blasted through these levels, and then this 61.8, which was resistance, was support when we pulled back with that sharp spike lower on the Biden news. So that means that the 786 fib is our next upside target, and that comes in at 69,400. Now that's pretty interesting because if we look at this as a big equal measured move, when you do this and you go beyond the 236 fib, I have to say that the most common retrace of a pattern like this is the 786 fib. And so that's 69,400. However, if we look at the other swings in this sequence, we can see that we kind of did on 886 levels here from this high to this low. We reached this 886 fib. If we move it down, we actually got up to this 886 fib and double topped. For people saying what's the 886 fib, well, if the 786 fib is a square root of 61.8, then 886 is the square root of 786. It's like that extra level fib retrace level. So I would say that we've got two upside targets then. If we do this 786 fib before we do a bigger pullback, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that, because we've got this 5, we could very easily do something like this, couldn't we, before we keep going? So 69,400 and 71,400 would be the 886. Now that's going to be quite important because obviously previous 2 or 3 times we've tested this fib retrace. We haven't been able to break above it. If we were, that's our breakout. So we can say above 71,443, we have broken out. I do not believe, once we get to 5 waves up, that we're not going to see some kind of a breakout. But it may be if we are in a proper squeeze going on, then it may be that we just come back to the previous fib level. So here it could be back to 66,000, and then we keep going. So we could come up here, 66,000, keep going, and so on. So if we look at this as on a weekly, we can see these moves. Let's take everything off. Have been really strongly bullish and clearly look to me like, we've been in this choppy overlapping correction for quite some time. And this kind of moves, I know bear market rallies can be fierce, but it does to me look like potentially the uptrend is resuming. So if we have done a wave 1, 5 waves in this one, and then 2, and then this is a wave 3, and we finished our wave 4, our wave 5 that we're about to begin should have a relationship to this wave 1. So if I measure from here to here and project it from here, let's take all this noise off. Then we can come up with targets. So my first target is 78,600. My second target, I think, is 94,000. So, and potentially I think we go beyond that to 100,000, 102,000. But that's what I am looking at. But that's obviously we've got to break out of this range first. So yeah, let's go back, put those fib levels on. Now we've got our targets again. Remember, when you've got a 3-wave correction like this, you put your fib retrace levels over both swings and you look for the 236 fib as your validation. So 69,400 and 71,400 are the two upside levels that I'm looking for. If we reverse at this 786 and we get underneath the 61.8, there was support on this news, which is at 66,000, then we will see a bigger pullback down to 61,000. So like this. But this level now becomes key support, and we won't see that. We could just see a shallow pullback here and keep going. Don't know how it's going to play out. Okay, so that's how I'm seeing Bitcoin tonight. Looking good, isn't it? Just remember, markets have to keep going up on good news. And when the ETH ETF starts trading on Tuesday, that will get quite a lot of attention. Okay. Now, we were in a very similar consolidation here in ETH. And again, because this is a big swing, I'm going to put my fibs on this wider swing at the entrance of this consolidation pattern that we are in ETH. Because at the moment, I have to say Bitcoin's getting all the attention, and it certainly is more bullish than ETH at the moment. We have not broken out from our overnight range, if you like. We are still trading sideways. But if we are looking at fib levels, and we did get this 236 fib very nicely validated, I'm looking at 3,586 next on the upside. And if we continue to the top of this consolidation, 3,800. One thing I will say is I remember very vividly when Bitcoin CME futures launched and everybody anticipating it, and then the day they launched, they sold off. So be a little bit careful and look for really good entries in ETH. It's not a given that it's going to go straight up when these launch. And if this price gets all the way up to the highs, and when the ETF launches, people aren't going to buy the ETF at the highs. They're going to watch for a pullback. So let's just be a little bit, don't throw out your trading rules just because great news is coming. You can't just buy it no matter what. I still think you need good setups. Okay, so when the ETH ETF launches, we are going to get a lot of anticipation. I think that other coins are going to be ETFs as well, like Solana and Ripple. So we'll look at them in a minute. So for now, we can say in ETH, as long as we hold above 3,430, which was the low that we pulled back to on this news and is also the daily 50 moving average, we're looking for 3,586 on the upside. I don't think this is a really kind of good buy entry here yet. For me, I think I'd like to sit out and see what happens. Watch out for 3,586 to be messy resistance. I say messy because, you know, some fib levels that you reverse at are pretty sharp, and some of them are messy and you kind of wash through the levels, and 61.8 fibs levels are messy. So watch out for this in ETH. Okay, let's take a look then quickly at Solana and see if Solana is super bullish on the news. And I have to say it's had a really good trading day for a Sunday. If we look at this daily candle, this has been really good news. Remember in Solana, I was kind of looking for this to be a first swing lower and then a big ABC and then another swing lower. So a retest of these highs here and 191, which would be the equal measured move level, is what I'm looking for in Solana. And I think having broken out above this 61.8 level at 164, that's really my next upside target for Solana. It's just a matter of buying pullbacks, and this has gone in a straight line today. It really does need a little bit of a pullback, and if you are, watch out, because that 191 level will be a bit of resistance. So perhaps not an ideal entry here. The other thing is that's going on is, what about these Bitcoin alternates? This is BSV I get asked about. Sorry, that's BCH. I'm watching this BSV here. I talked about this before. If these BSV and BCH are going to follow Bitcoin higher, I'm really quite impressed the last couple of days the way BSV is holding above this daily 50 moving average. If we break above this horizontal level at 48, I think we're going to see quite a strong move higher from here to 58 next. So pretty nice 20% more upside, and really back to this 200 moving average on the daily, and these previous swing highs at 72 are possible next if we break out. Still resistance at the moment, and if we look at this potentially as an inverted head and shoulders pattern, it's possible we could be spending a bit more time going sideways to have a balanced left and right shoulder. So no breakout in that one and no breakout in BCH. So it's really, really close to this daily 50 and this breakout level. BCH is going to be handed out along with Bitcoin with the Mt. Gox reparations this month. So watch out for that. Whereas BSV I think has already been sold. So won't have the same sell pressure. Okay, so let's talk about the election again. So Doge is having a really... So Elon Musk has come out very firmly behind. Trump's promised him an awful lot of money. That's really not the kind of only connection. So JD Vance, which is the new vice president candidate on Trump's ticket, is also very closely connected to Palantir. He has, every job he's ever had since he left the military has been sponsored by Peter Thiel. He's one of his huge backers. He was a huge backer when he became a senator. And, you know, Palantir is that AI company that do all the weapons guidance. They sell weapons that are used in Ukraine and Israel. So they get, that's, you know, the military industrial complex is doing really well at the moment. So it's a bit like the ex-PayPal mafia with Peter Thiel and Elon Musk. But Elon Musk is behind Trump. And so if Trump gets elected and Biden's, you know, and Elon's given him 45 million, then kind of Elon has a kind of direct line to the new president. Same with Peter Thiel. And so what we have seen today is a really nice breakout above the daily 200 moving average that we've recovered. I wouldn't call this as an inverted head and shoulders pattern, but I will say, you know, again, this was a market that's made a very nice three-wave correction, big picture in Doge, and we confirmed this 236 fib level. It was very interesting, lows, highs and resistance. We've broken above it. We've hit almost at important resistance at 0.144. So 0.144, we need to break and hold above it for the next upside target at 0.16. But because this is a big ABC pattern, this is another one where I think buy pullbacks, because we are likely to come back to this 786 fib, which is at 0.199, much higher than where we are here. And retest, let's put it this way, retest this big 236 fib level. which we failed at when we tried to get above it earlier in March this year. So that would be 0.217. So a textbook, beautiful weekly buy setting up here. 3-wave measured move back to these lovely weekly moving averages and turning higher. It's not quite. In fact, there are going to be people who will draw this as a trend line and say, oh, look, it's broken out. I kind of feel like it probably has, actually. I like to see 3 touches of a trend line and a 3rd touch false break, usually to validate it. So I'm going to stick with the moving averages and say this does look very good for higher, but just be aware that to buy pullbacks or look for really good entries, and this spike, don't buy a spike. It's more likely to pull back and give you a long entry, and 0.144 is the next level of resistance. So above it and then buying against it, or buying a pullback for another run at this level would be a better option for Dogecoin. Okay, let's look at some more that we have been following. This is Ono Finance. This is another one. Shouldn't leave my blue lines on, should it? But when I look at this on a daily chart here, from this low to this high, we made a textbook 50% retrace. When you make a 50% retrace, mean reverting markets tend to keep mean reverting. And so we're looking for a 50% retrace going the other way. What I'm a little bit wary about here is in this market, is you can see we've got a bearish cross of our daily moving averages. We might not get up to that 50%, but if we were to put it on the other way, we can see that actually that 50% is also our decision level in Ono. Let's put this on the other side so we can see. 1.16. So we may reverse at 1.16 because we're doing that 50% coiling up thing, and we could here see a little bit of a 50% pullback before we go higher again in a bottoming pattern. So just watch out for 1.16, but if I'm wrong and if we blast through it, that level would then become support, and then Ono Finance is on its way up again. This 3-wave correction is over. I'm a little bit wary that if we can't get above this level and then we reverse here, if we then get back underneath this daily 20 moving average, and we kind of, another way to look at it would be to say if we broke down from this little channel that we're in, I haven't drawn it very well. Or if we were to break down here, then potentially we'll see another swing lower or a retest of the lows in this one in Ono. So 1.16 is going to be quite important resistance, and I would say if we were to get back underneath this round number 1 level, so in Ono, this round number 1.0, these round numbers very often important support and resistance. You can see swing highs, highs, lows, 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 support, resistance, resistance. So holding back, and if we were to reverse at 1.16 and then get stuck back underneath 1.0, watch out that that doesn't mean another swing lower and potentially a retest of the lows. So it's important now that we don't see a daily close back underneath 1.0 in Ono. Okay, another request tonight is GMX. Don't know where I've put this one. Let's have a look if I haven't got it ready. No, that's fine. GMX is, let's see. So first off, let's look at the big weekly picture and see where we are here. Little bit of a tricky resistance level in terms of weekly, because we're still underneath this initial swing low, which sometimes can be a little bit tricky support and resistance. But these weekly moving averages as well. So still in a downtrend at the moment. So what I'm going to focus on is, first off, there's 2 levels if we break higher, this 236 fib closing above it will be key, and that's at 38.49. So we can say that if we break above this weekly 20 moving average, 38.49 is going to be the key resistance. And if we now go down a time frame, let's pull this in and look at just this most recent swing that we're in, and we're going to go level to level to level here. So we know we've got some resistance, but let's see where the levels are, because we're also very close to this. So for me, when I look at this, I say, well, yeah, it looks like we validated this 236 fib. We're above the 38.2. Potentially 50% retracing, and corrections are always tricky first time you are back to them. And in fact, if we look at this last swing that we did we get stuck at this 50% level? Yeah, we kind of did, didn't we? In fact, we should probably go from this high, because this is that swing and this is next swing. So last time we tried to rally, we couldn't get above that 50% level. So I'm going to say short term from here. This 50% level at 34.14 is first resistance. And if we get above it, we're going to be looking to retest these highs, and we're going to go level to level to level. So above it, we're going to go 38.27 and 43.27. So not quite. GMX looks pretty good. I like how we're above the daily 50 moving average, and if we can hold above it, that normally means we continue higher. So we can say we're wrong and we're going back down again if we close underneath this daily 50 moving average, which is at 30.46. So a daily close back underneath 30.30.46 would be a bearish reversal, but still going up and looking for 38.27 and 43 as long as we stay above it in GMX. I'm not sure. Again, this is quite stretched on the upside. It's not a good long entry. If you're holding it, that's what I would be looking for. But is this a good place to buy GMX? Not right now, no. I think it'll keep going though. Okay, let's take a look at WIF and some of the others, because WIF. First off, when we zoom out, let's zoom out and look at this WIF here. So this is another market. When they first launched, it's very common to see these three-wave moves. So in WIF, this first swing high looks like a three-wave. This pullback looks like a lovely third wave. And so we should see another swing higher. And I would expect this to kind of unfold with a relationship to this first swing. So I'm going to go level to level to level with fibs first and see if the market is looking at them. And if I draw my fibs from this high to low, you can see this 236 fib was resistance, previously support, important support and resistance then at 2.27, and it was also the daily 50 that we broke above here. And when we broke above it, we did what we were supposed to do, really strong move. So the next level where we might have a little bit of a wobble and let you in is 2.76, and because this is a big three-wave move, my first target would be up here towards this 786, or I would say perhaps if I measured from this swing to low, my first target is going to be this 61.8 and this swing high, actually 3.87, and if we get above it, we should see new highs. Remember, these markets are going to keep doing three waves until it shows us it's going to do a big five wave. So looking pretty good in WIF, just not perhaps a textbook entry here. 2.7, we're pretty close to this first upside target. I think we could see a little bit of a bigger pullback here at 2.769, but if we hold above it, it will be support, and 3.16 next on the upside for WIF. Okay, let's take a look at some more. One more request is FSXS. Now this, unfortunately, FXS for me, we're still trading at new lows. And this is a previous double bottom. So I'm going to say this previous swing low is going to be our first target when we bounce. And that's how these markets tend to work. In fact, if we do this swing low here, we can see that that's where we got to and then keep going. Now we might overshoot it, but that level then is kind of should be our first target on a bounce. And if we get back above it, we can talk about this whole swing maybe being over and tackling these weekly moving averages. In terms of the daily moving averages, yeah, short term, we're just riding them lower, aren't we? I'm a little bit concerned about the shape of this rally at the moment. Just like we've seen in Bitcoin, where we've seen really strong upside movement with not much pullback. This, unfortunately, is the opposite. It's kind of choppy and overlapping. The good news is that we haven't, I suppose, broken down. But, one thing about crypto is a high tide floats all the boats. So if this one's going to float, we're going to get above this daily 20 moving average. We're going to get up here to 3.26, but watch out and see what happens at 3.9 in FXS. For me, this is not really a sign that this is a bottom yet. Now, there's a couple things. Could this be, I don't know, let's see. Yeah, I don't see any sign that this has bottomed yet, so I would go carefully, I think. Okay, good luck. I'll be back. Let's see how this is going to be quite an exciting week. In regular legacy markets, it's really going to be all about inflation and election stuff. We've got, lots going on then. Good luck.